Good morning, everyone. I'm Councilmember Deborah Fig Sanders, representing St. Petersburg City Council.
Good morning, Adrian Petrillo, Mayor of St. Pete Beach.
Barbara Hazelden, appointee from the Pinellas County Commission.
Councilmember Patty Reed from the great city of Pinellas Park.
All right. Before we begin the planning committee agenda, we're first going to have a required public hearing on the PSTA federally funded program of projects, followed by a vote. Debbie Leas, our CFO, will take us through it. Debbie?
Well, good morning, everyone, and I have a staff statement that I am going to read for the public hearing. This public hearing has been scheduled so that the general public may be given the opportunity to comment on PSTA's program of projects. Individuals wishing to make a presentation today are required to complete a yellow public hearing speaker card. The card can be given to staff or to anyone wishing to make a comment either at the start of the hearing or during the hearing. Speakers will be recognized in the order in which the comment cards are received. Public comment is limited to 3 minutes per individual speaker unless additional time is granted. A group can designate a spokesperson by completing the appropriate form and presenting it to staff. The spokesperson can then speak on behalf of the group, addressing staff for 3 minutes for each member of the group present in the audience who waives his or her right to speak, up to a maximum of 10 minutes. Presentations will be limited to only the subject for which the public hearing is being held. The public hearing will not be closed until all individuals so desiring have had an opportunity to make a presentation. Please raise your hand if you require a public hearing speaker card, and one will be provided by staff. A paid advertisement concerning this public hearing appeared in the Tampa Bay Times on Wednesday, May 28th, 2025. Notices were posted at PSTA Administrative Headquarters, Park Street Terminal, Grand Central Station, Williams Park, Pinellas Park Transit Center, and on all buses on Wednesday, May 28th, 2025, and on PSTA's website on Wednesday, May 28th, 2025. An announcement was posted on social media also on Wednesday, May 28th, 2025. To date, we have received 0 comments on the program of projects. So with that, I will go into doing a little presentation on the action item, considering that we've had no speakers or comments received to date. So the Federal Transit Administration requires all grantees like PSTA to provide a list to the public of their program of projects. And today's action item relates to approving the list of the program of projects. And we developed that based on eligible projects that will be funded by FTA. The biggest portion of that is coming from our annual apportionment from FTA. And we determine what projects go in there from our capital improvement program. So right now we've had no comments, so we will continue forward on the process. So here at PSTA, and I've mentioned this last month as well, we do a long-term forecast of projects. We do a 5-year plan. That allows us to take what limited resources we have and program them accordingly. In addition, as I'm sure you all know, when you have a larger project, whether for us it be buses or other capital improvements, you have to start planning way ahead of time. It sometimes takes a long time to get the grant funding in place, so that's why we do a multi-year forecast of what will be spent. A majority of what we have is based on normal replacements that we have in our transit asset management plan. The transit asset management plan essentially goes and takes a look at the status of the equipment, different things about it, so we know when it should be replaced. So the federal fiscal year, the FFY 2025, is the same as PSTA's fiscal year, and which also begins on October 1st. We have been very fortunate to increase what we are getting in our federal formula funds. It's increased by about $1.8 million to $25.3 million. And then what we do is we allocate those funds over the list of projects known as the program of projects. I'm just going to go through the variety of categories that we have, and at this moment I just want to recognize Pam Wrights, who is our grants administrator. She has been with us for 38 years. She's lost her voice, so no teasing her out. But she is really a voice to us on all of our projects, and she's very strategic in how she does things. And we really try when we put the list together to have enough variety of categories, even if it's for something down the road. If we need to, we can shift between them. And she has worked magic with us over the years to make sure we get our projects complete. So the first category is in vehicles. And while we don't have anything that we're gonna be ordering next year, again, we look down the road for the next time we will be replacing vehicles, which will probably be out in 2028. Van pool program is in there. It costs us about $1.4 million a year to run. We have some leftover grant funds from TBARDA and other sources, so we're not asking a lot in next year's program of projects. But this is one of those things where PSTA took over running the program, and it gives us money, additional money every year that comes back to us to use in our program of projects. We always have shelters and amenities for our riders. And we also have categories of construction and equipment. And next year, we have solar panels in there along with generators. Could have used those generators a bit the other day when our power went off twice in one morning. So we've got those replacement items in there, and of course, the solar panels will be saving us some money going forward in our operating costs. Technology is one area that includes both hardware and software. One of the things as we try to be more efficient that we've included in there is money to allow us to be able to remotely get into different pieces of equipment we have around the county, to be able to analyze and fix it remotely rather than taking one of our IT staff, putting them in a staff car and sending them out somewhere. So that's an efficiency measure that we're looking at. We also have money set aside for third-party contracts. It's primarily for the planning department, but others will also use that money. And we will be looking at bus stop inventories as one of the items and updating our transit asset management plan. So that's an overview of the program of projects, and our action item before you today is to approve the list of our proposed projects that we will then submit to Federal Transit Administration. Are there any questions?
And there are no public
No
here
public
for
comment.
comment. Okay. Thank you, Debbie.
You're very welcome.
So we can now close the public hearing and start the planning committee. Do I have a motion to recommend approval of the federal grant approvals and program projects?
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Unanimous? All right, very good. Now is the time for public comment on remaining action items on the agenda. Anyone here? Okay. All right. So, next item is 3A, approval of the April 16th, 2025 minutes. Do I have a motion to approve it?
So moved.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Unanimous. All right, the Live Local Property Tax Exemption. Debbie, I'll call you up again to go over the resolution and to exempt PSTA from a portion of the Live Local Act.
Thank you very much, Chair. And this is something that came to our attention through Commissioner Brian Scott, who asked us to look into this. And the Live Local Act, which was Senate Bill 102, went into effect in 2023. It basically provides incentives, if you will, to increase affordable housing through providing tax exemptions. What the action item today is to look to be exempted from the local tax exemption. There's 2 tiers of exemptions in here within the act, and we also have a Florida statute that allows taxing authorities like PSTA to opt out from a 75% tax exemption to developments within their jurisdiction. There's two pieces that we have to comply with in order to be able to even bring this forward to you. One is to have the board approve a resolution to opt out of the 75% exemption. And the other is to have Pinellas County be identified in the most recently published Schimberg Center for Housing Studies Annual Report. Pinellas County is in there. Now, the implication on a revenue increase for us based on the property appraiser's office is currently today, we don't know what will happen in the future, but as of today, there's two properties that would allow the revenues to increase by approximately $11,000 to $12,000. So the action item today is to approve a resolution and make a recommendation to the board for the exemption to the exemption, if that makes any sense. You're exempting yourselves from the exemption. And I can get into the weeds a little bit more if you like.
Yeah, I think probably all of us with our municipalities have
Yes,
talked about this. and
Okay,
A little familiar with it, so thank you, Debbie. Any
Sure.
questions?
Thank you. Okay, so if I'm understanding this correctly, because I read it, what I'm hearing you say is that we're going to exempt ourselves from providing the 75% exemption to any developers within our municipality so that we, you have to have 2/3 vote. But I'm trying to see what the unintended consequences that you can think of may be by accepting to exempt the 75% exemption.
For-
That's a lot, but
for the
anyway.
consequences for PSTA, I don't think there would be any negative consequences to it.
You know, and my understanding is that the Live Local Act allowed for developers to get this tax exemption to, incentivize affordable housing, either for people with adjusted median income 0 to 80 is one kind of affordable housing for like very low income folks, and then 80 to 120. And the only thing that we are allowed to get out of with this resolution is the 80 to 120 kind of development, not the 0 to 80. You can't get out of that exemption. So as Debbie said, right now there's only 2 properties in Pinellas County that are in this 80 to 120 range. And so the net impact to PSA's ad valorem property tax is $11,000 or something like that. It's
Yeah.
pretty small,
Yeah.
but it might grow.
That was our concern too, the growth of it, and
Did Clearwater,
we exempted, yeah. I think the county did too, didn't it?
the county
The
did?
county did.
Okay, well, thank you for that, I'm just, I always ask, what are the unintended consequences to every vote? Because what may benefit some may be detrimental and impact others. And I wanna make sure that we have taken all of that into consideration prior to.
I mean, certainly to, on a bigger scale, the availability of affordable housing is beneficial to public transportation, like ridership,
Okay.
to support that.
Well, I'm glad we said that publicly, which was my full intent, for
Yeah.
it to be on the record, so, okay, with that, I move approval.
Second.
We got a motion and a second, all in favor? Unanimous, very good. All right, motion passes.
Great.
So informational items, gosh, Debbie again, here we go,
I'm so sorry.
operational budget.
So, good morning again, and we just presented this to the Finance Committee, so Commissioner Hazelton will be well versed as we go through this.
Exactly.
And I presented this last night to TRAC, who had a lot of really great questions and ideas, and all ideas are accepted. So the fiscal '26 budget, as you know, we did 2 workshops related to the budget. At the first workshop, when I came to you, I said, at this point in time, we're at about a $1.3 million deficit that we're working through. So I'm very pleased on this first draft of the budget that you will find in your packets to be able to tell you that we have now balanced the budget with a small surplus. So the budget includes things like maintaining our fares at the same rate. It includes not major service cuts, it does include some cuts as it relates to some minor changes, the community connected bus network. It includes premium service for 34th Street called Spark Service. And then that goes from Grand Central to Eckerd College and also services the very growing Skyway Marina District. When I take a look at where our budget is compared to the budget for '25, we are basically right on par with what we had passed for last year. We anticipate a small surplus not only for fiscal '26, but also for '25. One of the things I like to do is be able to look at the budget from a forecast to budget for next year. And our forecast is coming in at around $116.5 million, significantly below what we had passed for this year. So I'm really proud and pleased of all of our chiefs, directors, managers, and employees who have found ways to create cost effectiveness and cost efficiencies within the budget. We have been looking at every single line item in the budget multiple times. Some of the big line items that are impacting the budget are salaries, fringe benefits, and privatized transportation that you see down in the bottom corner over here. Salaries, which represents about 40% of our budget, we're cost containing that at an increased growth rate of 3% from forecast to budget. Next month, we'll be bringing health insurance to you, which we'll be talking about shortly. And privatized transportation is also going up based either on usage or on contracts. We've got Bob Clifford here today. I'll recognize him from Jolly Trolley. It's one of the contracts where the contractual costs are increasing at about 26%. However, we not only looked at the big line items, we looked at the little tiny line items as well. One of the things, Brad, we went through everything, but just as an example, we limited the employee travel as it relates to training. That saved us money. Bonnie Epstein, who is our Director of Mobility, came up with an innovative idea. For any of the paratransit transactions that are on credit card, she's batching them on a weekly basis instead of daily, and that has already saved us over $100,000 in merchant service fees. So all ideas are welcome. It's really great. Out of the 2 workshops came 4 priorities. So this slide is really all about you all and what you brought to the table for staff to include in the budget. And I am going to go through each of these and show you how the budget supports your vision and your strategic plan for the staff in PSTA. Of course, top on the list, cost effectiveness. So PSTA is one of the most cost-effective transit authorities compared to our peers around the country. We are a member of the American Bus Benchmarking Group where we compare ourselves to that, and we are consistently cost-effective. But I also took a look at how do we compare to HART across the bay. They are not part of this particular group, and they've also just presented their first draft of the budget. They run Saturday service, unlike PSTA, which runs full service during the week. They run Saturday service. And yet their budget is about $1.7 million higher than ours. So again, very cost effective just on a local basis. Some of the areas where we've been able to save money is in relationship to our maintenance area. With the mixed fleet that we have now, we are saving money on diesel fuel, fluids, parts, and we also, and to Commissioner Hazelton had mentioned, we do have increased electric costs, but the savings as it relates to the other areas, we're saving a lot more money right now, but we do want to keep a mixed fleet. So one of the areas that you just passed was approving the enterprise lease for our non-revenue vehicles. These are the sedans that we use. And that is saving us immediately $150,000 in our maintenance budget. second most important area to you all was looking on a regional basis. And we are not only continuing to run the Cross Bay or the Clearwater Ferry, we're now introducing the Tampa Bay or Cross Bay Ferry. This is gonna save our partners, it has no impact on our budget, but it's gonna save our funding partners money, and more importantly, this will attract grant dollars not only to the region, but to PSTA for us to use in our program of projects as we go forward. Now, some of the other highlights, something else you don't really see in the budget is our community connected bus network. This is where we have taken less productive areas and taken our resources on our bus routes and put it to other areas. It's cost neutral, but will help to drive our ridership up. And that's gonna be very important. In addition, we have our premium Spark service on 34th Street. As I said, this is going to be a limited stop service that goes from Grand Central to Eckerd College and will be servicing the Skyway Marina District. Now, we've talked about expenses a little bit, let's talk about revenues. This was an area that the board really came and honed in on to increase our non-tax revenues. So we really talked a lot at the workshops about the UPass program. And this is an area of opportunity to increase our revenues that come from our partnerships, building new partnerships, and renegotiating partnerships we currently have. So the data that we collect is also very helpful through the Flamingo program to do that. One other area through technology that we're going to be looking at is finding ways to ensure that those people who are on some of our discounted programs, such as the Veterans Pass or the TD Pass, are using the passes appropriately. That will also help to ensure that they're collecting all the fares that we should be. So with this, we are seeing an increase in our fare revenue of about $1.2 million. And Commissioner Hazelton at the last meeting brought up, yes, we had some time during the hurricanes last year, that I'm not counting on a hurricane this year, that helped to increase that. But the majority of this relates to increased ridership and increased revenue as it relates to UPass program. I do have two areas that I will consider challenges as I look forward, because I'm not always looking just at today, I'm always looking forward. One is on property taxes. I'm pleased to say that the property taxes are increasing 4% compared to what we initially thought it would be. However, property appraiser Mike Twitty, our FGFOA, or Florida Government Finance Officers Association, met with them. And it was very eye-opening to me. I knew we would have impacts this year from the destruction that was caused by the two hurricanes. But what he says is we're gonna feel that impact going forward. There were a lot of people who evacuated along the beaches who never came back. We have no idea what their homes, apartments, condos are like. He said, I think his terms were, we'll be able to tell something's wrong inside when the windows start steaming up in the summertime. So those homes have been valued at what they were valued at. What he's expecting next year is to see values come down for things as we discover what homes need to be demolished, raised, whatever. So I'm looking forward that that could be a problem next year. Yes, sir.
So we had the same concern with property values going down on the beach, and I talked to Mike Twitty about that. And he made a lot of sense. He said a lot of those houses are getting knocked down, or sold from people that have been there for years and years, and had a very low property value. Now the new people that are buying it, they're buying it for, even if they sell it for land cost, it's probably 4 times what they paid for 30 years ago.
The number goes up, yeah.
And so he says, if anything, property values will go up because of that, which I never thought about that, but that's kind
That's
of,
a good point.
yeah.
Excellent point. So let's hope that continues going forward. So we have in here, also in our budget, to balance the budget next year, is some COVID relief funds. Now, we received a significant amount of money, as all transit agencies did, for COVID relief. Some of the agencies I know of, some of them spent their money right away. Then they didn't have any money when revenues were slow to recover from ridership, et cetera. We were very strategic in how we used our money and when we used our money. So we've been taking this big tranche over the last number of years and using smaller pieces of it going forward, kind of weaning ourselves off of this so it wouldn't be catastrophic. A lot of transit agencies around the country are doing drastic cuts because they can no longer afford the service because they didn't plan it out over a longer period of time. So if we will be probably using this money up over the next, it'll be used up over the next 3 years, including '26. So we've got a lot more work to do on the budget, that's why it's an information item today. Next month, we will be bringing health insurance to you. That is a significant dollar cost in our budget, and we'll be presenting that for your approval next month. And then we also have next month, the tentative millage rate will be set. So that we will include in the budget as well. Currently today is at, we're keeping it steady at 0.7342. Input from the board will be very important on that as well. As we go through the summer, we are going to continue to look at cost efficiencies to see where we can lower the costs and any revenue increases where we can. This is basically what we've been talking about through the workshop, cost efficiencies, raising revenues, so that we can help not only balance the budget, but help the property tax piece as well. In September, we'll be coming to you with the final proposed budget for the 2 public hearings. So you will get that budget well in advance of the public hearings to review. So with that, I will take any questions.
Yes.
Thank you for that presentation. And one of the things that would help me going forward, I know from the board workshop priorities, there was a lot of conversation about increasing the UPass fare. And I know one of the questions or one of the statements that was made earlier in the year is that we're only dealing with certain organizations right now because we had other neighborhood associations that were wanting to participate, but we limited the participation at that time. So hopefully when we get the next presentation, we can kind of figure out what we anticipate those UPass revenues being, and if we have strategically come up with a plan to do that outreach for the UPass. Because again, a lot of neighborhood associations were asking for that, but we limited who we were working with the last time we asked about it. So that would be helpful for me if we could. Then the second thing, these are more statements than anything. I know that this is the budget, but based on that board workshop, it wasn't a priority, but it was something that was recognized. We have a lot of contracts that we know nothing about as far as information is concerned. And Jolly Trolley was a major one of those conversations that we talked about at the workshop. I would love for the planning meeting, as we discussed the budget, to allow commissioners to understand what some of those contracts are, because they do have a great impact on our budget. So that in itself is a whole committee meeting that I think would be important for us to have those conversations, because that was one of the longest conversations in that committee, right, Mr. Byrd?
Yes, ma'am.
It was, and so I would love for us to be able to have input and have not just an overall picture, but us to go through some of our contracts to kind of find out whether we can, as we're saying, increase and renegotiate the UPass, or we may need to look and renegotiate some of these contracts that we see bits and pieces of. We only see them when it's time to renew those contracts, but we don't know what the overall forecast of revenues and or expenses are for those particular contracts.
I think that would be a great discussion to have, and those are things that there are some things, whether it be that, certain technology items or whatever, different tables looking at the long-term of public transit, that may not be an immediate October 1st change because it takes time to renegotiate contracts relooked, but I think that would be a fun discussion.
Right, no, I didn't expect for the change by October first, cause I knew no time is limited, but moving forward.
Mhm.
Because every contract has renewal dates that
Right.
won't fall into it, but at least we'll be better informed
Mhm.
as to, instead of getting this contract in this month, this contract renewing this. We had a lot of questions, in that particular group that we were in. And so it might not be immediate, I'm very aware of that, but it's more so informational for commissioners to better understand bits and pieces of the budget where we may be able to address different, revenue and expense issues that we may or may not have. So that's just a request to have it,
And
Yeah.
to that point, I'm glad that this is Bob Clifford. He is the chair of the Jolly Trolley Board of Directors. Again, he was, and then he retired and he's back in duty. And after the workshop, we sent a note to the Jolly Trolley and to our other big contracts, just as you were saying, Chair, that it would be good for them to come. There was a lot of questions and discussion about it, about our contracts and how the substantial impact they have on our budget. And so he's here to just kind of hear the sentiments from you, and so I'm glad you brought that up. And then he's got a board, he told me, board meeting tonight with the Jolly Trolley Board, and then we're gonna get together to have him come present.
So-
Yeah.
So
Or
you
have his
know, he was a
organization
part
come
of the conversation, but you weren't the only conversation.
Right,
And
right.
you
We're-
were so
we're-
good the first time that they had to bring you back. So congratulations.
I just wanted to give him credit, 'cause he's the only contractor that showed up to this meeting to check it out,
Oh,
so
you
the other guys, Transit's not here.
Yeah, no, so yeah, that's my request, because Mr. Burns and Mr. Bradford, they made a great presentation, but we still had a lot of questions.
Yeah, our privatized contractors make up a large portion of our budget, so there's always room for looking at that.
Thank you, and thank you for that, Brad, and welcome, sir. Thank you for coming. That's all I have, Chair, thank you.
That's it, any other questions? Thank you, Debbie.
Oh, you're welcome.
Does any committee member have any other business to bring before the committee?
I have one.
Okay,
When we discussed the 5 meeting, like if you miss 5 meetings, no matter what, and that's
Yeah,
whether it's in a row or overtime, I think we might wanna look at that, only because looking at some of how the meetings fall on different things for different commissioners, in the course of people being on here, you're gonna miss 5 meetings. Like we have the Florida League of Cities coming up, or I have the MPOA and that different things. So I don't know if that's a fair, I know why it's there, so that people just don't not show up and then they just get somebody else, but I think it should be more of a, hey, let's figure out why or something, or if they're missing 5 in a row or 3 in a row, or whatever, okay, do they really wanna be on the board? But it came up in our one meeting.
well,
and-
yes, so what Mr. Reed is explaining is that the PSA rules and regulations for all the committees of the PSA board, not the PSA board, but the committees of the PSA board, the rules and regulations say that if you miss 3 meetings in a row for any reason,
I thought it was,
the executive committee, the rules and regulations say that the executive committee should pick a new PSA board member to be on that committee. That just occurred, not on the planning committee or the finance committee, on a different committee, legislative, I think it was. And what the executive committee decided was to, at least for now, to sort of alert the absent board members to the fact that they've missed 3 in a row. Cause it turned out that neither of them realized that, and then and get their input of whether they still wanna be on the committee, kind of give them notice and to kind of work with them. And both commissioners, both board members have indicated that they're going to attend, that they wanna stay on the committees that they were being absent from. So
is it 3 in a row or is it 3
3 in a row,
total?
and then is
I
there
thought it
5?
was total.
It's 3 in a row or 5 in a calendar year.
Okay,
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
it's both, either, I
either,
guess.
okay.
And quick question, the 5 in a calendar year, I think is fair because we only meet, what, 10, 11 months? So
Yeah.
that's pretty much, you miss half the year meeting.
Yeah.
But I do remember being in a part of that conversation. We did not do due diligence to those commissioners because again, nobody tracks, how many meetings that you missed. And so that was, I felt was on us, that we have to do a better job of informing, because I mean, if you're busy, you're busy. And certain things you just don't have control over, so that was part of the discussion, is that because we didn't know if they knew, that they were at that doorstep of being replaced, we thought it was, on us to make sure that we inform those commissioners and to see how they would like to move forward. Now, once that information has been presented to the commissioner and they still miss those meetings, and I think we're looking at also whether or not you called for an absence, that you said that you weren't going to be there. It's one thing to miss a meeting with no notice. It's another thing because League of Cities or whatever, you have to attend based on your elected position. You have to be there. So I don't know if we discussed changing anything in the rules for that, but if you have to do something that is your job related that you were elected to do, I don't think that should be held against you. But I don't know that we actually express that in writing in regards to the difference of those absences. But I do hope we look at how we notify commissioners in the future to let them know you do realize you've missed X, Y meetings. If you miss one more unexcused, then you will be replaced. But I think we definitely took ownership that we did not notify these commissioners of their status.
I think it seems like it's going okay generally with the committees, with this sort of notifying board members ahead of time that they are missing several in a row. And that the PSA board could, if there's interest from another board member to replace them, do they really wanna be on that committee? The PSTA board meetings, the once a month PSTA board meetings, of course, PSTA doesn't have any control over your appointment to PSTA. The PSTA Enabling Act does, the charter for PSTA says that if you miss 3 PSTA board meetings in a calendar year, unexcused,
Right.
and the definition of an excuse is anything, is a text to Brad at 8:59, I'm not coming, that's fine. That counts as unexcused, so there's nothing, on that. And then it still is nothing, cause there's no enforcement of that. If, say, Chair Albritton misses half the meetings, it's up to his city council, it's not up to PSTA. If the city council wants to keep him on, it's their right to do that. So that's happened in the past where people don't come to a lot of meetings, but their home city or county doesn't wanna change, so they stay on. That's just for the board, but the committees is kind of a it's up to the board whether they want to have somebody else wants to go on the board if someone's missing and all that. That's, I think, why the rules were changed to just say any reason, if you're not coming, maybe somebody else wants to be on there.
Okay, so here's the $1 million question on that. Of course, I'm representing the phenomenal city of St. Petersburg. How do we notify municipalities that their board member is,
Oh, we tell them, yeah.
you tell them after the 3rd, or do you tell how do you, when do you express that?
After the 3rd.
You see, and by then it's too late, so, cause they've missed that 3 meeting threshold. So I guess for me, you can kind of tell mine is about
We have sent
communication.
letters to the mayors and
Okay.
city managers and things like that I'm talking about over the years on a couple egregious that have missed a lot of meetings, saying, well, maybe could you maybe consider reappointing somebody else? I think that did finally happen in one time in Largo. But Luckily, it doesn't happen. I'm grateful that you are for the attendance. It's not usually a problem.
Might be a good thing to bring up to a board meeting, just to go over and say, you know,
These
These are
are
the-
in effect.
yeah, so everybody knows, you know, except the people that aren't there.
Exactly.
Yeah, the attendance
Okay.
policy I think would be good. But Commissioner Reed, did we answer your question? I guess that's my
I'm right
question.
behind you. 4 or 5 in a calendar.
Did we answer your question?
Yes,
Did you have,
yes,
okay.
yes, yes, I just do, it was
Same thing that's-
that, if it was 3 or in a row or whatever, just to make sure people know, or if it's a city event or things are coming up, cause we're getting very busy right now, so I just wanna make sure that some people, you know, they just have things going on or stuff happens that, they, you know,
So can we add that as an agenda item?
Okay, all right, very good. Any other questions?
So they know.
All right, good. Our next meeting is July 16th at 10:30. Meeting adjourned.
Thanks. Good job, good job.
Great discussion, everybody.
So I think,